get back to the basics. What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's a pretty good one. Let's stick to that one, right? So if you're gossiping about somebody, would you want somebody to gossip about you? If you're being duplicitous, if you're, like all of those things, just treat people like you want to be treated, and carry that into your life.
Welcome to the Small Nation Podcast, brought to you by CoverLink Insurance, where people are more important than policies. On this show, we unpack lessons from entrepreneurs, break down development strategies, and do deep dives on small town success. Our goal is to provide value to our listeners by hosting conversations that teach, inform, and inspire. Hey everyone, my name is Ethan DeLeon, and I'm here in the studio with the founder and CEO of Small Nation, Jason Duff. Today, we are honored to be hosting the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, Jon Husted, and his wife and fellow entrepreneur, Tina Husted. Welcome to the show, guys.
Great to be with you.
Thanks for coming, guys. I've been really excited about this episode because I've had the pleasure to get to know you and have the deepest respect for your service to our state individually. And then I believe today this might be your first podcast as a couple.
It is. I think so. That's
Absolutely.
exactly right.
Well, so much respect for your public positions. And I know that, being a team, and we talk a lot about with entrepreneurs about it's not just sometimes the one entrepreneur, it's their entire family. It's the whole ecosystem that supports that success. So I'm just excited to hear more about your stories. Everything begins with what is your home or your hometown or your community. But Jon, I'd like to start with you. Tell us a little about where you grew up and why that's been significant with your journey.
Yeah, well, I'm very blessed in the sense that I was born in Detroit, started out life in a foster home, and got adopted. And my parents raised me in rural Northwest Ohio outside of the town of Montpelier, where I went to Montpelier schools and graduated from high school. But it is small towns. I visit with people from big cities a lot, or, they go, well, the small town charm. The reason is because you can't be anonymous in a small town.
That's true.
Yep.
Everybody knows who you are. They know, and so you got to treat people like you want to be treated. Your reputation will go around, and people look out for one another. And small town life was great for me because there were a lot of people that cared for me and looked out for me. And I'm a big fan of small towns.
Love that. And Tina, how about you? Tell us about your hometown.
So I grew up in Bucyrus, Ohio, a little bigger than Montpelier, but one thing I think Jon and I both pride ourselves on is that we did grow up in small towns, and it makes us kind of understand our life experience. Collectively, we just appreciate the values that were instilled. And I also grew up in a neighborhood, but it was rural. It was actually surrounded by woods and a field. We had about 30 houses in our neighborhood, and so I will also attest that you can't be anonymous. People know each other in a neighborhood, and we all supported each other as part of our community to kind of look out for each other. I went to a small school. I had about 100 people in my high school graduating class, and really appreciate being part of that and having had that experience now living in a bigger community. I think it really drives Jon and myself to kind of try to help people and see people for who they are and just be supportive and try to educate people that our community and how we treat each other is so important. And I try to do that in our neighborhood in Upper Arlington now, just trying to.
Yeah, Tina is she's great in our neighborhood because she brings people together. She's the facilitator at, doing, we have a 4th of July celebration at our house. But those things, when you create a sense of community with your actions, and as you know, how you build things and the kind of amenities that are in a community really pull people together. As Tina was talking, I was thinking about what did I love most about being in a small town? And small town in Ohio on Friday night football in Ohio.
Can't replicate it.
It's the whole. Yeah. It's like when you're a youngster, yet the whole town comes together for that event, and it's just a great memory growing up in a small town.
Yep.
I love that. And we've hosted a lot of mayors and economic development professionals, and they've kind of captured that that in a capsule of like, what is that small town experience? And many of the things that you guys just mentioned was it's about the neighborhood, it's about the people that are there, and then the traditions that each town has. Could be the festivals. I know we just recently here celebrated in Ohio. A large part of our state was in the total eclipse.
Yeah.
And where did you guys get to experience
Yeah, we
that
were
together?
at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for it.
Well, and how cool to be at
Yeah.
the Air Force Base with all of the history that Ohio has with space and that being such an asset to our state. But, being here, there was a moment for about 3 minutes where it moved to that totality. And Ethan, you were here. How would you describe that buzz and that energy?
It was amazing. To be honest with you, I thought it was a little over. I thought people were hyping it up quite a bit, so I didn't expect it to be. I thought it was going to be cool, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I was blown away at the reality of just, experiencing that with my own eyes, and everything got dark, and everyone around here was cheering, and it was just a really cool energy in the air for sure.
There was some interesting. We were there, and there were people from all over the country gathered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And an interesting thing, it brought people together. If you saw the stat that cell phone usage, the data went down 40 to 60% during that time period.
Wow.
Where people were actually just like with each other as human beings,
Imagine
not
that.
not on their devices. And I think that aspect of it's really cool. But I do understand now, after experiencing the eclipse, why it was like you have to be in the point of totality, because when it was 99% covered, it was still light.
Yeah.
But when it went 100%, man, it was dark. It was pretty cool.
Quite the
Well, I
difference.
think if we can, the thing I took away from that is like you saying with the cell phones, is actually taking time to appreciate your friends and neighbors and family, and get off devices to celebrate an experience. So that courthouse lawn, seeing it packed full of people that were laughing and were eating food and that sense of community, that's something that I think growing up in a small town, we want to take to other places, not only around the state but around the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well-
and how you do things, how you design things, how you create that sense of community, how you have people like the Tinas of the world who bring people together with, whether it's her art or reaching out to neighbors who are in need, things like that. Because it just brings people together, and bringing people together creates the magic of those human relationships.
Love that.
Since this is your first podcast together, I'm kind of curious, to hear a little bit more about your guys' story, how you guys ended up finding each other, and then the short story, I guess, of how you ended up to where you are today.
Well, that's it's a lot to recount. The minute I met Tina, we met at a golf course actually, and I was like, "Who's that?" That's like, she seems pretty cool, and and then she kept pursuing me, and that's not true.
Is that how the story goes?
Yeah. Let's hear the real story.
Yeah.
Let's hear the real story.
We were, a friend of mine had asked me to help with this legislator golf event at the country club that I was playing at. And so they had to have a member in every foursome. And so I ended up with a couple of John's friends, but not him. And all of his friends that were in the group were married. And of course I wasn't, and John wasn't. And John apparently complained later that why didn't he get put in the group with
It's like, why didn't I get the good-looking single girl in my group, man? So
That's funny.
So anyway, that's how we met.
And the rest is history, huh?
Well,
Very cool.
About being in the public eye, and being a leader, I imagine that has been easy over the last few years. No.
Well, you know what? I feel like after 24 years of doing this as an elected official, I'm conditioned for it, but I have a greater appreciation now for what it does, for my family and the burden that it places on Tina and the kids and all of those kinds of things. And like when my daughter will come home from school, she's like, "Dad, would you stop talking about these things? All my friends are talking about the things you're talking." And I'm like, "It's okay, honey. We just got to do these things." It is, but it's a family commitment. Public service is a family commitment because everybody plays a role. Every time there's a problem, Tina hears about it from somebody who says, like we can wave a magic wand and solve, but we listen, we care. And you have to care about all the things that people are concerned about, whether you can do anything about it or not. At least you can try and you can explain it. And, but we, from our faith, have grown a deeper commitment to service than we've had, at any point in our lives, I would say right now. And so that's a big part of our complete family commitment.
Mm-hmm. Well, for some of our listeners, one of the things we're trying to do with the podcast is just give a general education, So for those who may not be familiar, can you maybe quickly just highlight some of the roles that fall under the position of Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, it's interesting because as Lieutenant Governor, I think one of the only constitutional responsibilities you have is the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the National Guard. But it really depends, on the governor and what the governor allows you to do as Lieutenant Governor. Governor DeWine has given me the ability to work on the things that I care about most, which is economic development, workforce development, innovation, and regulatory issues.
Yeah.
And I would do that through Innovate Ohio, the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation, the Common Sense Initiative, and then working with the Department of Development and Jobs Ohio. And for me, why do I care? Because it's get people a good education, give them a job skill, create a great economy, let them go out and live their version of the American dream and continue to innovate, because innovation is the key to progress in any society. And those things, to me, are foundational to living in a prosperous world, and I get a chance to work on them every day. So it's a great blessing.
Yeah. Well, and the evidence of your work is played itself here, not only in the work that we have done at Small Nation, but is all around the state. I had a chance to listen to the governor's address a little bit yesterday, and just to highlight, this is Ohio's time, and I know that's a theme that I've heard you speak on and share on. Can you kind of share for those why is this an exciting time for Ohio? And I know you're a very humble servant leader, but I'm going to ask you, what are some things you're really proud of?
Well, first of all, let me get at the why it's Ohio's time. Look, we are a state that was built on the Industrial Revolution, right? We had these rivers and we had the lakes and we had natural resources and we made steel and we made cars and we made rubber and we made all these things that we fueled the Industrial Revolution in America. And then globalization came and competition came. And so a lot of that manufacturing economy left places like Ohio. Like I grew up in that town, Montpelier, I talked about. The factory my dad worked at closed about the time I graduated high school. And my family had to leave the state to find jobs, aunts and uncles and mom and dad and brothers and sisters. And that was hard on our family. And you saw this happen to our state. And now the world has changed. Ohio has worked hard at becoming a better place to do business on tax policy and lots of other things, good infrastructure. And now that, combined with the fact that America has realized that we need to make the things in America that are essential for our economic and national security. And that means the whole supply chain for that, because you don't have, if you have 99% of the supply chain, you don't have independence. You have still dependent on somewhere else.
Right.
And so we're making things in America again. In Ohio, preparation has met opportunity. Great place to do business. We know how to make things. America wants to make things again, and it's all coming back. And we have a diversified economy. You got GE Aviation, new headquarters, Cincinnati, Ohio. You have Sherwin-Williams expanding in Cleveland. You have Honda expanding battery plants in Fayette County and certainly in the Bell Fountain area, continuing to invest in their facilities near here. But the big of it all is the whole semiconductor industry is coming to Ohio via Intel, the largest economic development project in our state's history. A $30 billion first phase investment, which is just mind blowing when you think about it. Honda's new battery plant, by the way, which is nearly 80 football fields under roof. That's a $3.5 billion investment. Intel is $30 billion.
Wow.
Put that in perspective.
Big dollars.
And so why it's Ohio's time is that as America has realized that we need to make things in America again, that's what we do. And now we have more jobs than people. We have more jobs in Ohio than we have people to fill them. If you went to ohiomeansjobs.com right now, you'd find 160,000 jobs. Nearly 100,000 of them pay $50,000 a year or more. And we only have 49,000 people on unemployment. So we have, 2 jobs that pay over $50,000 a year for every one person on unemployment. So opportunity is here.
We need people to come.
Diverse. Yeah. Now we got to grow our talent, and we got to get people, get them jobs and get them opportunities.
Yeah. Well, talking about talent, I know, we need engineers. We need a lot of the science-oriented professions. We also need trade skills in our state. But one area that Tina and I connected when she visited is I am a first-generation college student. I went, if you want to, really shock your pretty traditional conservative small business parents, you tell them you're going to go to a liberal arts college to be a music major. So rip that Band-Aid off. But I'm actually a classically trained musician. And so when I connected with Tina and learned about your body of work, I fell in love with your art. But I want to compliment you because it's more what you do with your art that is really more inspiring to me. But I'd love to hear a little bit about how that passion, you pursued that, and also to share how you're using it today. Sure.
Well, I did a lot of art in high school and actually thought about going to art school and kind of went a different direction and kind of dabbled with various mediums over the years. And somehow in 2013, 2014, I started to really kind of put the pencil to the paper again, I guess, if you will, I started really with pastel chalk and then found, other mediums, acrylics and oils were also really fun to work with. And just started painting. I mean, things that would be inspiring to me, especially the landscapes of Ohio were, to me, I think are very interesting. We have a really wonderful topography in this state. Mm-hmm. And every community has a different story to tell. So I think it's fun to kind of go across the state and see different things, be inspired by community members who might share something with me. So I've been kind of started this project. I don't really know. It kind of started organically. Thinking back when the First Lady actually asked me to paint their home in Greene County, I started thinking, well, I've painted several properties or buildings or barns or landscapes in various counties, and I started to count them up, and I was like, I think I've done like 12 or 14, 15 counties in the state. Wouldn't it be fun to do all 88 counties and kind of have just a body of work that kind of expresses something about every county? And it may not necessarily be a building or some historical landmark. Somebody might share with me a beautiful landscape that they took a picture of their backyard. I just posted one in Fairfield County that was like that. But it really just connects you with people to do this, and you learn a lot about each community, what's special to people, what they love about those small towns. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine shared with me one in Scioto County, the Holy Redeemer Church, which I painted. That was just, I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to paint that. And it just kind of was done before I knew it. And I can't really explain it. I almost feel like it's a God-given gift. And so I'm really excited to kind of go down this journey. And hopefully, I think I'm at 44 paintings right now. So
awesome.
about
You're halfway there. 88 counties, 44 of them done.
Yep.
So it's overwhelming to me too, because I'm a doer and I like to finish a project. So it kind of bothers me. It hangs out there. But I also have to remember that it takes time and just be patient and, I'll get to the 88 whenever I
You have a few other things going on,
exactly.
Right?
Well, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening, and that journey of what you're sharing is it starts out as a passion, but then, seeing the impact that it has and wanting to do more. I will tell you, a lot of our creators are, starting on that path, but maybe they built that first Etsy page, or they open up and they set up at their local farmer's market, or maybe it's then taking the journey to open up a storefront. Just hearing how that has come along, and that you're excited to pursue that passion to help others. So I just appreciate you sharing that.
All right, at this time, we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a dynamic workspace in the heart of Bell Fountain, look no further. Build Co-working Space is your destination for creativity and collaboration. With state-of-the-art facilities and a thriving community, this is where innovation happens. Join them today for as low as $99 a month and build your success at Build Co-working Space. Big city dining in a small town. Now that's the Syndicate. Join them for fresh steaks, pasta, or seafood for dinner, or stop in for Sunday brunch to experience one of their signature dishes such as chicken and waffles, and maybe even pair it with a mimosa flight. Located at 213 South Main Street in downtown Bell Fountain.
I just want to connect something. So recently here in Logan County, back at March 14th, Indian Lake was hit by an EF3 tornado, and Indian Lake's very important to me because that is actually my hometown. So Lakeview, Ohio, about 20 years ago, that is the beginnings of Small Nation. We had our community bank in Lakeview that got bought up and closed down. The grocery store that was in our community went out of business, and the central business district in this town of 1,200 people was vacant and empty. So I started my first career of buying the bank building and recruiting a new community bank. We recruited a new grocery store to town. We built, new self-storage and new apartments. And sadly, most of those were completely destroyed in the tornado. But I want to compliment the governor, of course, you guys and your entire team, how they have responded to come to our community in the not only the loss of life that we've had, 3 is way too many, but now the economic destruction. And the kind gesture of how this all ties together is you had painted a painting of a sunset scene at Indian Lake and donated it to help raise money for that cause. Those things do not go unnoticed. And I just want to share from the community how much we appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you had just finished that painting of Indian Lake a few weeks earlier.
Prior to this whole episode. It was crazy. And I was like, I have this wonderful painting. So
well, and as a team, you guys get to celebrate the highest highs, and you're also there with people when they are at their lowest lows. Can you speak a little bit about, how you manage those two, big swings?
You know what? It's just, that's how life is. Like we try not to ride the roller coaster, as I phrase it. Things are never as good as they seem, and they're never as bad as they seem, and you're never as great as it appears, and you're never as bad as you feel at your lowest moments. And so we try to take a pretty even approach to all those things. But I think we also recognize that we have the ability to provide joy to people in their lives and comfort when they're in need, and that we can be that for other people. And so that's what we try to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
And look, and people, I mean, Tina's a doer. I'm telling you, like if you have a project, it's like, give it to Tina because it'll get done. Right. And so many people come to her. I mean, you see things where somebody mentions, like we have this one with Michelle's effort that she's taking on down in Logan, Ohio, not Logan County, to help foster children who have aged out of foster care. This was just like a chance meeting with somebody, and the next thing you know, it's an entire program to help foster kids. I mean, those are the kinds of things that in our lives we have these chance encounters with people, and they're trying to do something. They don't know how to get it done. We connect them to the right people, and next thing you know, we have a solution. And that's kind of the fun stuff that we do. We just were in Marysville at a Christian school there that are using Ed Choice scholarships for the vast majority of the students. I created that program in 2005. There were 4,000 students who were taking part in school choice, Ed Choice. Now there's 130,000. And you just see the unique stories about how it affects families. So if anyone wonders why we keep doing public service, it's because of those things like that, whether it's
I call them God winks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just open the door to something and be willing to listen and hear someone's story. In this particular case with our friend Michelle in Logan, Ohio, she had gone to a talk John was giving and gave her book. She had written 2 books about her life story and a tragic life story growing up in Ohio in Warren County. And, she shared her book with us and I read it and I was so inspired by her story and just wanted to help her. And just connected her with people in Appalachia. The governor had an initiative in Appalachia and, so here she is now with, some money that she can start her dream of helping these kids. And there's so many kids that need help in our state. So I think if I were going to give anyone advice in life is listen to people, try to find a way that you can be helpful. And it may not always just happen immediately, but I think if we're willing to kind of hear people's stories, we can definitely have an impact on some level. It could be a small way, it could be a big way, but there's no door that is necessarily closed. Don't ever believe your doors are all closed. We can all find solutions and be inspired by someone if we're just willing to kind of keep those conversations going.
Yeah, there's that even-keeled approach, right? Like the highest highs and lowest lows. No, I love that. Let me ask you this. For both of you, your time in leadership, like if you could pinpoint it down to like what you would want people to remember about your work and time in the roles that you're in or the positions that you're in, what would that be?
For me, I mentioned one, the Ed Choice Scholarship, which is giving students school choice across the state of Ohio. That's an important one to me. The Choose Ohio First Scholarship, which is a STEM scholarship, helping more students go get a STEM education. Big projects like the Intel project, sure. Those things stick out. But the ones that give it the most meaning are when it's a person. It's like an individual person that, but for you, they would have never got that problem solved. I mean, I remember one case when I was a state legislator of this student who was eligible for a college scholarship because their father had been killed in Iraq. And the window on that scholarship closed. And he wasn't going to be able to go to college because he couldn't afford it. And I helped get that window open so that he could get to college. And then many years later, I met him. He was a doctor. He was a medical doctor working at Kettering Hospital, helping, save people's lives. Yeah. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like that really happened as a result of that one little thing that you did. And so those are the most meaningful things that you remember as a public servant.
No, I appreciate that.
So one question that I have is you've worked a lot in state government and in state public service. There is no question that we turn on the news and on the federal level, the heaviness and the ugliness and the divisiveness. As you think about your roles representing this state and kind of leading, what kind of examples do you think we could provide as a state that would be a good example for other of our national leaders to look at? Well,
I don't claim to know that I have the answer to all those, but look, if you're just a good person, there's a lot. Get back to the basics. What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's a pretty good one. Let's stick to that one, right? So if you're gossiping about somebody, would you want somebody to gossip about you? If you're being duplicitous, if you're, like all of those things, just treat people like you want to be treated and carry that into your life. Like we know what character means, but can we take those things? It's like, okay, you go to church on Sunday and like you got your operating instructions for the week and then you walk away and you go home and you get mad at the football game that's on or something like no, come on, let's just try to carry what we know is right into our lives as parents, as children, as professionals, as spouses, as friends, as community members. and fight the urge to do what the world wants you to do and do what you know is right.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say just try to find things that we have in common that unite us instead of focusing on the things that we disagree on all the time. And, we have a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, and I don't see people as their political, affiliation. I just don't see people that way. I know we all have unique experiences that may lead us to one direction or the other. And I think each and every one of us we're all fighting a different battle every day. And I think having, a kind heart and love toward our fellow humanity is so, so important. And so I try really hard. And I know it's difficult, especially our kids tell us a lot, that they're treated differently because of being Jon's children. And but I just try to remind them that, just turn the other cheek, try not to engage in something that you might be treated differently because of that, because we still need to live our lives on a higher level and be good examples. And as Jon said, just treat others as you would want to be treated. It's a golden rule, and love your neighbor as yourself.
And I've taken to do this recently because there's so much negativity. By the way, I'm sitting I pick up my phone, this thing can be a great value and it can be a great detriment in your life. Social media and the negativity that's out there. And I have, in the last few years, I always try to ask people when I'm places what's the good news? Mm-hmm. What's the best thing that's happening in your life or in your community or things like that? Because we have a tendency to, when you ask, hey, how's it going? People want to tell you the bad thing that's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you talk about the good things, if you can train yourself and just make it your human nature to focus on the good rather than the bad, it's amazing how you can elevate the conversation of everybody around you to the right things. And I kick myself every time I fail to do that, because I fail to do that on many occasions. Mm-hmm. But if you can get the conversation going about how we're going to solve the problem rather than dwelling on the problem or what we've done that's worth. It's if you're in Bell Fountain, if you ask somebody in Bell Fountain today, what's the good news? There's plenty of things to talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you allow it to be the last thing they read on their social media feed, then it might not go in the right direction. So those are the kinds of things that we can do to just, in the little pieces of the world we touch, to move people toward gratitude and opportunities and away from the things that maybe divide us.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that perspective. And I know we want to be sensitive of you guys' time today, so I'm just going to leave us with a closing question here. But I just want to say, I'm very encouraged to hear that from the two of you, that kind of attitude and perspective. And we certainly, on this podcast, we appreciate the economic development advances and things like that, but we also appreciate, the artistic approach and treating your neighbors well. This is all what makes our communities vibrant, right, and worth living in, and what makes Ohio a great state. So I appreciate to hear those things from our state leaders. But as we kind of round out the episode here, what is one professional development resource that was impactful for you along your journey? And I want to hear from either of you.
I'll let Tina go first on that one. See things that influenced her, because by the way, she can do everything. She's
I heard you're
a real estate broker, a physical therapist, an artist.
Did I hear you ran a marathon too?
No. She was at one point in time. She was one of the top 10 fastest women over the age of 40 in the country. She ran a 2:46 marathon one year, and when she was in her early 40s, she's still in her early 40s, by the way, right? So we're always forever young.
Yes, we'll take that.
Honestly, because I have done so many different things, I don't really think I can answer that question other than I could say probably the Bible. Mm-hmm. The scripture, the inspiration that I get through Christ. That's kind of what inspires me every day. And the acronym of the Bible is basic instructions before you leave Earth. And so I feel like that's that's where I kind of go to
Yeah.
when especially when I'm struggling. It's really important.
Recenters you.
Well, I would consider every person in my life has been a mentor, because because I had asked that question, it's like, well, every person that I've seen and encountered in my life who's been successful, I'm like, what did they do? What is it that they do that makes them successful? And sometimes, you learn both from the negative of why maybe somebody failed, and it's called, and it ends up being wisdom, and it's a lot easier to gain wisdom from other people's pain than creating it in your own life, right?
Yeah.
And I watched people who've been successful, so that's been a guide. But I think it's a constant struggle to be that person every moment of every day, of every hour, when you're not going to be perfect, and to give yourself a little. Tina says this to our daughters a lot, like, give yourself a little grace. You're going to make mistakes from time to time, but that it doesn't define you. Then you brush yourself off after you do that. You get up and you go and you keep going. But that's generally. But I will say that sports were the biggest thing that shaped me, because you learn how to be tough, how to be self-disciplined, how to work with others, how to win with grace and lose with dignity, and know that both of them are going to happen. You get to experience them, and you learn from both your successes and failures. But sports, to me, playing football, basketball, baseball, track in high school, and then football in college at the University of Dayton, that to me shaped the foundation for my path forward.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing those.
So just thank you guys for being on the show today. One thing that I cannot not take away from this is just your authentic, genuine nature. And I think for people that maybe have not been to Ohio, but are seeing how Ohio is succeeding on the national level, it's because of those two principles, and it's leaders like you that are leading by example in your lives and in your communities. And I'm just excited for our state and for your continued service and success as you keep our state strong. So just thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, and I want to compliment Small Nation, because what you're doing here and in other communities around the state is a big deal, because that's giving them hope, and it's somebody showing them the light that they can walk toward to help improve the quality of their community. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in on this episode of the Small Nation podcast. We hope that conversation proved valuable to you. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share the episode and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform. You can also subscribe to the Small Nation YouTube channel if you prefer to watch your episodes. Follow Small Nation on social media, and we'll see you in the next episode.